Welcome back. Have you ever had that member of your family or extended family for that matter who just doesn't seem to ever want to pitch in when it comes to helping out? Take, for example, a husband who doesn't help with the housework, or a brother or sister who can't find the time to help with grandma. Maybe she has a few odds and end jobs that she needs done around the house. Well, this can cause a strain on family relationships. So what do you do and how do you address it? Joining us now to discuss once again is Dr. Richard Marks. It's so good to see you, relationship expert extraordinaire as you are. We appreciate you and your time. So good to see you. Okay, so where do we start with this? Because you find sometimes in family structures that they just don't feel like they're getting the help and they're having to carry all of this workload on their own.
Well, let's go back and look at the marital bond first, because you see this very much in marriage. There's some research that suggests next to money, this inadequacy of one of the partners to fulfill is a second leading reason. All right, so part of that is cultural. I mean, back 60 years ago, there was these traditional roles in marriage, right? The wife did these things, the husband did these things, and they didn't blend, right? You did this, I did this. However, over the last 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, things have shifted, and couples see themselves as equals. So we're now equal in relationship. But if we're equal in the relationship, then what am I actually doing? I'm wanting to make sure that you're pulling your weight in this relationship, because if you're not pulling your weight, that means I have to do what? More. Right.
Pick up the
and
slack.
you have to, and I don't want to do more, because we're thinking in terms of egalitarian relationships.
Okay.
So that has actually created conflict.
Okay.
All right.
How do you get through that? Because women are doing jobs, men are doing jobs, there's housework to be done, there's child rearing that needs to be done.
And there's actually research that shows even in a married relationship where both partners work, the men do less. That women still see themselves in this cultural role, that though I still work full-time, I'm also a full-time homemaker, where the guy does not. And that is creating conflict.
And you're saying that is a perception, or that is...
No, that's actual research.
That's actual research.
There's a lot of research that shows that.
So that can lead to what? Some animosity? It can lead to some problems you've seen?
Resentment, bitterness, you're not pulling your weight, I work full-time, you work full-time. And then it begs, well, whose job is more important? Whose job is more, has more greater value?
So, right. So if your job is allegedly more important than my job, is that why
then
you're getting off scot-free to go do what you need to do?
Sure.
But in the meantime, I'm picking up all the extra slack because perhaps it's not as important or whatever. So what do you recommend to couples who come into your office? What do you recommend that they do to try to, because there's still going to have two couples at work, you're still going to have kids, you're still going to have responsibilities at home. How do you balance that out to make for a happy household?
One thing is the brain creates these mental shortcuts, all right? And so what happens is it creates mental shortcuts based on things that it experiences. So to make it simple, let's say that I notice that you don't do the dishes the way that I would like them or expect them to be done, all right? So I keep complaining you're not doing the dishes and I'm doing all these things. What the brain does, though, it remembers the things that's most recent to it, but it doesn't look at all of what you do. So I only focus on this piece, but I negate all these other things. Okay. And you see this conflict a lot. And that's why people get defensive. Well, I may not do this, but look at all the other things I do. And we don't show appreciation. So number one, we've got to appreciate what your partner does do, what your family members do, all right? Secondly, you really need to define clearly what the roles and responsibilities are. When my kids were growing up, and when they got in their teen years, you're going to mow the lawn. I didn't have to mow the lawn anymore. I got teenage boys that mow the lawn.
There you go.
But they needed to know exactly what that looked like and when I wanted it done by. So that's very clear. So first, define your roles and responsibilities. Secondly, what is it going to look like practically? So by Friday, 6 o'clock, the lawn needs to be mowed, all right? And if I would bug my kids particularly my oldest son, if I'd bug him on Wednesday, hey, are you going to mow the lawn? He'd get mad at me.
Because he knew he had time.
He had 2 days, and he saw that as you not respecting me, Dad.
There you go.
You see, and I had to learn to shut my mouth and wait till Friday at 6 to see if it was done.
Yeah, and then get on me. Give me a chance to fail first.
Exactly. And so by clearly defining roles and responsibilities, and then what does it look like? We want the trash out at the street, every Monday night, which is where our neighborhood is, by 8 o'clock. It's very clear. And then the third thing is commit yourself to those roles and responsibilities. Do it out of goodwill and respect, and for the betterment of the whole, the family.
Right. The respect is just so important, because if you're not doing that, then that shows disrespect, and then you're just kind of dead in the water.
Yeah.
Communication, would you say, is the first step, whether it's a family, whether it's a spouse, what have you, to say, hey, I feel like, should they even say, hey, I feel like I'm taking on a lot of the workload? Or should they just leave that alone, and because it's kind of a confrontatious way of getting into it?
We have a way of saying it. We call it a complaint with a request for change. I notice that you don't take the trash out, by 8 o'clock, my request for change is that you would be more committed to following through on those things.
Okay.
I can state my complaint, but I can ask for what I want different. Sadly, though, and many of our listeners would know this, there are those out there whose partner or family just does not care and does not pull the weight. That's a very different thing, because that's about, I don't value you, I don't value the relationship, I don't value the family,
respect.
I value me. Right? And there's no goodwill and respect in that. And those kinds of things, you know, it's like pulling teeth to get somebody to do something.
So you have to start with a goodwill. You have to start with two people or a family that has respect for each other. Then you communicate from there what the expectations are, how we're going to get it done together, right? You're going to do this, I'm going to do this, lay it out, have a deadline, right? Some accountability.
Yes.
Yep. And so when it gets to that date, then out of respect and love and goodwill, it's going to get done, you hope.
Yeah.
So you don't kill someone.
I don't know if it's true for you, but I think it's true. It's true in my home. My wife carries more of the weight than I do. I travel a lot and speak a lot, so she carries a lot more of the weight. But when I'm home, you know, there are certain things I make sure I do.
Sure.
I make the bed.
Yeah.
I'll take out the trash.
Go overly.
I step into those roles so that she doesn't have to.
Right.
You see, and I do that out of because it's good for us.
Right, and I'm sure she appreciates that too.
Yes, she does. As a matter of
unless you're
fact.
not doing it just right, then I got to do it anyway. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's another issue, whether I'm doing it the way that you want it.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that's another issue. Like, I don't make the bed the way that she wants it.
Right, but it gets done.
It
So
gets
there
done.
You go.
That's my point.
I appreciate your
It
effort.
does get made.
Good deal. Dr. Marks, always fun having you, sir. Thank you for
always
being
my
here.
pleasure.
And if you want to get more information from Dr. Marks, you can do so. You can go to they're laughing. Are they laughing? They're laughing at me. You can go to livethe.life.org for more information on his website. You can also give him a call. He does counseling. He does pretty much everything. 904-374-6365. Good to see you.